Welcome to your Get That Nugget for GCSE English Literature. Today we're going to be focusing on giving you a framework for analysing quotations, which will then give you a framework for structuring your paragraphs in your English literature essays. This can be applied across all essays, but today we are focusing on Lord of the Flies. In the last nugget, we looked at Ralph and how he is presented by Golding. Today we're going to look at Jack and how Golding uses him and presents him. So at the start of the novel, Jack, whilst we know he's not happy for Ralph to be the leader, he seems to fall into line. He has his choir. They are very much seen as his gang, his posse, and they look to him to dictate what they're going to do. Throughout the novel, they become increasingly savage, increasingly violent, and all the time it is Jack at the front of it, Jack leading it. And so the first thing we're going to look at is this quotation. Jack is described as being ugly without silliness. So it's not that he's sort of got clowny features, it's not that he's ugly in a friendly way. He's described as being ugly without silliness. Automatically, we have him in direct contrast to Ralph, who is described as being a good-looking boy. So straight away, we have the conflict between them. The word ugly is quite strong. It's essentially saying there is nothing physically redeeming about him. There is nothing pleasant about his face. And ultimately, that reflects the character inside him. By saying it's without silliness, it's also suggesting that there is no humour, there is nothing light about this situation. So, AO1, Jack is presented as being unpleasant. Okay. AO2, Golding uses his physical description to suggest something harsh and hard by calling him ugly. Golding is suggesting that the exterior reflects the interior. AO3, what we're going to look at here is that direct contrast between physical descriptions. So that we can then talk about the conflict between id and superego. So we've made a comment about Jack. We've unpicked how we've got there, what the writer is doing, and we've linked it to the wider context and Freud's personality theory. We then have this, where essentially Jack is described as an animal here. Jack is described as being less than human. He is described as bloodthirsty, snarling, implying that he is an uncontrollable animal. So our AO1 is going to be uncontrollable, inhuman. AO2, we have the use of zoomorphism. Jack becomes an animal. Bloodthirsty suggests that love of violence, a lack of control. Snarling again suggests a loss of language. He is losing the ability to speak, therefore losing his humanity. AO3, that idea of civilization as illusion, linking to Golding's experience. And you can see all the way through that we are still looking at how Jack is being presented, and we are able at every point to analyse that quotation and link it to context. The last quotation we're going to look at is this one. So, I cut the pig's throat. That presents Jack as violent, egotistical, and savage. AO2, we're going to focus on the use of I. It's the ownership of the violence, almost as if he is proud of his savage nature, feels that this identifies him as someone who should be followed. And if we look at AO3, it is about the regression of society. Ralph is the sensible thinker, Ralph is the democrat. In the situation where they are on the island, is not going to be the person that's followed. We now go back to almost caveman times where it was about strength and it was about hunter-gathering rather than about building, planning and keeping people safe. It's all about slightly survival of the fittest. Okay, so we've done that now. For each quotation we have assessment objective 1, 2 and 3 annotated. Now we're going to look at what that would look like in a paragraph. So if the question is, how is Jack presented? Golding presents Jack as uncontrollable and inhuman. When he refers to Jack's bloodthirsty snarling, he is suggesting that Jack is becoming animalistic, this in turn suggests a lack of control as he is a wild animal. The fact that Jack snarls rather than speaking implies that he is losing his language and therefore his humanity. Golding is showing us that evil exists in all of us and that civilization is only an illusion. Golding felt this way as a result of his experience in World War II. Okay, so we have our AO1, we're making a statement about the character, we're showing we understand the character in the text, we're responding to the question. We're then analysing the writer's techniques and what the writer is trying to do, and then we are linking it to the wider context of the novel. So you now need to do is write your own 3 paragraphs, and you can use the quotations that we've looked at today, or you can pick 3 of your own and answer the question, how does Golding present Jack? Don't worry about an introduction, just 3 paragraphs using the structure that we've just looked at, AO1, AO2, AO3. Once you've done, please do hand it to your teacher and I'm sure they'll be happy to mark it for you.